Now, I did see my next guest walk into the studio here. I'm glad that we're able to have him in because lots to talk about as it pertains to pension reform. Former Rhode Island Governor, U.S. Senator, Mayor of Warwick, Lincoln Chafee, who's been here before, is around the corner. Thanks for coming in.
Good to see you.
I appreciate your coming in to talk today. You know the spot. You've been here before. I'm not going to put you on the spot.
I'm sure you will.
Well, no, the question, you had a lot to say just this week. It appears, someone had made an assertion that only Governor Raimondo, when she was General Treasurer, had stepped up to the plate for pension reform. And you kind of point by point by point by point
Thank you.
had a response to that. So let's just start with that initial reaction when you had seen that. Were you sitting down?
Well, it all started after 2011, in November of 2011, when we passed pension reform, and I signed it. And then shortly after that, getting into 2012, all these national stories, and the treasurer was going on national tours, and I was just too busy to respond, and trying to govern the state. And all the other legislators, they're busy doing their job, but they must have been a little miffed too. Wait a second. We were part of this. We were dealing with the age of retirement, the years of service, the COLA issues, the cost of living adjustment issues.
The special session.
You ever had a special session? Well, no, I don't think that's ever happened in my lifetime, Kate.
That's
I gotta
not.
get the State House librarian to verify that, but I can't remember special sessions
Yes.
from the General Assembly dedicated to one issue.
So let's,
So they were there not to fool around. They were there to do pension reform.
Again, you talk about the assertion that no one stepped up to the plate. Everyone was there in the special session. You signed it. But let's talk about the aftermath of that. And again, this is something that you have pointed out as well. What you had hoped the approach would be when, of course, they were looking at legal challenges and sort of how it played out and how others had wanted it to move forward and how it ultimately was resolved.
I was very unhappy, as I said in the article, with Engage Rhode Island's activity as part of this. Who was this group, and where did their money come from? It's protected under some laws, and so it is dark money. And remember, they had some guy from Enron that was giving money into Rhode Island's pension?
John Arnold.
Yeah. With the approach of attacking the unions while we were trying to work with them on age of retirement, on years of service, on the hybrid plan which helps their members, on the COLAs and what we can do on that. I want to work with the union leadership and say, let's hammer this out. After all, it's your members that are going to benefit by having a solvent pension fund for years and years. That didn't happen. Engage Rhode Island came in, they're running confrontational ads. I didn't like it. Those were all Raimondo people.
And here we are, it's 2017. We had you in on another issue. You had talked about your vision for how 38 studios and to recoup that loss. Do you think, because you came in here and talked about, how successful that was, would yours have been a better approach?
On
Again, the legal challenges and not to, have that sort of level of discourse and discord in the media especially.
Well, Engage Rhode Island didn't help. And obviously, when you're running ads against the unions and accusing them of having inflated benefits and the like, that's not good for getting them to the table. And if we had been able to get them at the table and resolve pension reform with them signing off on it, there wouldn't have been a lawsuit. And as soon as we passed the bill, that lawsuit happened like that, and no surprise, after all those ads were run. And about a year later, I started talking about, because we were losing in court. We lost 5 out of 5 cases with the unions, early legal skirmishing, motions of this and that. The judge was ruling, Judge Silverstein, in favor of the union position over and over again. So I was suggesting, let's have what I call a peace conference, get together, see if we can tweak some of the issues, age of retirement, years of service, the COLA, whatever it might be, and you drop your lawsuit. And the treasurer was adamantly opposed to that, Treasurer Raimondo at the time.
Do you think there's still a lot of maybe ill will out there in terms of how everything played out?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the final issue, of course, is the investment in the hedge funds.
The performance.
The performance, because the retirees now were promised that their COLAs would come back, cost of living adjustments would come back when the fund reaches a certain solvency, I think 80% funded. And now with the hedge fund investment, that is pushed out even further. The investments were terrible, not only with high fees, I call them rapaciously high fees.
Rapaciously high, yes.
They were. And the funds, her investments bombed. So the poor retirees have to be livid.
And so, you saw that comment that was made in the recent week about no one else stepped up to the plate. I mean, how soon did you take that pen to the paper and say, let's go down the list here, and this is what, my recollection of events?
I didn't want to pick on Mark Patinkin. I mean, he's the one that wrote that, but it's been going on for years, and I've just been too busy dealing with other things. But yes, when I saw that, I just had the time and the energy to say the record needs to be set straight.
About how it all shook down?
And I challenge anybody to look at the record, and what I said in that op-ed is accurate or not. I challenge anybody to.
So wanted to put that out there with pension reform. You've been outspoken on a number of issues pertaining to kind of, economic development here in the state. You want to look back at pension reform. We've talked about 38 studios. It's the summer of 2017. Are you feeling the political bug?
Well, I care about Rhode Island, obviously. It's my state. And I don't like when I got the $60 million for 38 studios, our lawsuit was successful, and we got the $60 million. Immediately, it went out the door to General Electric and Johnson & Johnson and these incentives. Of course, that makes me mad. And you had Sam Bell on before. I think there's some progressive issues in the Democratic Party that need to be addressed. Seems like our incumbent governors, more with the corporations, as we've seen over and over again. That's not the traditional Democratic Party.
Sam Bell went as far as to say that her approach to cutting folks off of Medicaid is almost Trumpian in her approach to health care. And I asked him, do you think she'll see a Democratic challenger in the gubernatorial race?
I missed that. What did he say?
Oh, he just said that her approach, again, by cutting everyone up, he likened...
Will they have a challenge?
What did he say? He said that's a very interesting question.
Wait and see.
Yeah, wait and see. But he said, again, going back to the Democratic principles and then going back to how he said the progressive Democrats don't see her fulfilling most of them, so kind of left the door wide open.
Yeah.
Do you think she'll see a challenger?
We'll see.
Could that challenger be you?
I'm thinking about it. I will share that with you. And I see where she vetoed, am I correct about this, Kate, the curb on the expansion of more charters?
Yeah, there was some charter legislation that she had vetoed as well.
She had vetoed that. Those are all corporate interests getting into our school system. She's just too tight with the corporations over and over again. Our money to General Electric, our money to Johnson & Johnson, our money to the charter school deep pockets.
And so, again, former U.S. Senator, former Rhode Island Governor, are you out there having conversations right now with folks, with retired teachers, again, keeping that pulse, and, you're never far from the pulse. I mean, this was the state that you were governor of. I mean, are you talking with just a lot of different folks about the state of the state right now?
Yes. I'll have to say that when I did run for president, I met some of the Sanders people, and then, of course, when I got out, I supported Sanders and voted for him in the Republican primary. And so we still communicate a little bit.
Yeah.
I went to what Senator Sanders said in the campaign. I think the biggest mistake that Hillary Clinton made is not putting him on the ticket as vice president. In fact, even worse than that, telling them all to go away. We don't need you. All that energy that Sanders brought to the campaign, that the Clinton people said, we don't need you.
And do you feel that progressive energy here in the state? We're hearing what Sam Bell had to say when he was in the studio. Do you think it's a real force to be reckoned with?
I do, and especially in the Democratic Party. Can't let this party do what it did in the presidential election of 2016, lose to Donald J. Trump. I mean, you're the weakest candidate since Barry Goldwater in 1964 because the party aligned itself too much with the corporations. Hillary Clinton was giving speeches to Wall Street for $800,000 or whatever it was. She was taking Clinton Foundation money by the tens of millions of dollars. Of course, the email scandal. These just added up as not the traditional Democratic Party.
And so you said you're thinking about it. What's it going to take? What's your time frame? Do you think that maybe you might make a decision?
I've been asked that, and all I can say is the ultimate deadline is the filing deadline, and that's June of 2018.
But you'll continue, I'm sure, to,
and
again...
you go get signatures, and you get on the ballot, and then you're in.
You've done it before.
Yes, and I sure have. Councilman.
A few times. Let's go through here. How many?
Yeah.
So
those are 2-year terms of art. It's been every 2 years.
So again, I appreciate your coming in. Anything that you want to, again, share with folks about, because we're talking specifically about pension reform and sort of your role and the rest of the state's role in it, that maybe you want to leave with here as you're in studio?
Well, the main thing on my op-ed was the myth that was created somehow that Treasurer Raimondo was solely responsible for pension reform in Rhode Island. It's just so inaccurate. The legislators had worked on it in previous years, 2007, I believe, 2009. Certainly Gordon Fox was very knowledgeable. He abused the public trust, and he's paying his penalty for that. But he was very knowledgeable, and so was Teresa Pavlidis at that time, making it happen, getting the legislators in line, dealing with all the issues, the COLAs, the years of service, the age of retirement, getting us into a hybrid plan. So the danger of having media create a myth is out there.
And you wanted to set, again, the record straight. There's one more piece. You talk about all the...
Appreciate Go Local for having me on, because many media outlets just want an echo chamber.
We are certainly not an
They
echo
don't want to hear
chamber.
anything
We have
off message,
all
and that's not journalism.
no, all viewpoints. We welcome them here in the studio. You did bring up one point that was something you had written about, and you said when they were tackling the number of issues, not tackling municipal pensions.
Yes, yes, especially Providence. Here we are in downtown Providence, and this is just going to be a millstone around the state's neck for a long, long time, because we missed that opportunity.
What were the
And
conversations?
there was others, this one, Socket,
Yeah.
and this was a pension fund in Coventry that's way, way worse than the states. About 17 plans that were worse than the states when we were doing our great pension reform.
And were the
I said,
conversations
now's the
there?
chance to,
You thought that was the time to strike.
that was the time.
Did folks say we just can't handle everything at once? I mean, so what were the back and forth as we're here now? What were those conversations like back then?
Yes, it would have taken some heavy lifting, I don't deny that. But that was the moment, a special session of the General Assembly, dealing with just one issue. There's no doubt that these other plans for years are going to be the state's problem. They're going to wash up on our shore. This is the time to deal with them. Why didn't we? Just a missed opportunity. People just didn't have the appetite for some heavy lifting. I like to solve problems. I don't like to kick them down the road. So,
and as you
I
mentioned,
was angry about that, if you remember back then.
Oh yes, and you'd mentioned as well when you wrote, how you handled fiscal issues in Warwick, how you handled fiscal issues in the state, and contrasting it again with that money with Engage RI. What did you think both at that time and again now in 2017, all of that money coming into this effort, and as you said, dark money? I mean, a lot of folks might say, well, it was needed to make it happen, but was it the right way?
No, I disagree. The right way was to get the unions at the table. It's their members that are going to be involved in their retirement for years and decades. And let's work on it, see what we can do to make sure this fund is solvent. You have your experts and actuaries, we'll have ours, and we'll see if we can make it happen.
Should have had
We
these
didn't even
at the
we
table.
never even tried that.
Well, again, it was an interesting, thought-provoking piece that you had put forth. Wanted to kind of go through bit by bit, as we've had you here in studio before. I hope we'll have you in studio moving forward. Always great to get your vantage point. Lincoln Chafee,
Okay,
thanks for
very much.
coming in. I'll let you back out into the heat.
Yes,
Stay
yes.
cool.
You too.
Okay. Former U.S. Senator, Rhode Island Governor, Mayor, and Council Member of Warwick, in here to talk about what he wanted to do was set the record straight on how folks view pension reform and how it moved forward here in the state of the Rhode Island in recent weeks. And he said it was even more than that, saying that basically kind of no one had stepped up to the table apart from the Treasurer Raimondo at the time. He made a point of kind of going through all of the things that were done in the special session in the General Assembly. Again, his role as governor when there were legal challenges, and as he pointed out, wanted to just make a point about the performance of the pension fund with alternative investments, which he had pointed out as well, Magaziner has pulled out of. But here we are in 2017. Again, we've had Lincoln Chafee here in studio before. Said he's still thinking about getting back into politics. Pressed him for a time frame. Of course, said can wait as long up until the filing deadline. But, weighing in on a number of issues. So it'd be interesting to see what we hear from, again, the former governor moving forward.